guys, it's Therapy Thursday, and today we are going to talk about boundaries. Healthy boundaries are a significant part of self love. You cannot say that you love yourself and you don't set boundaries with other people. You allow other people to mistreat you, to invade on your personal space, to intimidate you, and to have you engaged in activities and projects and events that you never wanted to be involved in the first place. You are responsible for saying no, and you also have to get comfortable with accepting other people's no whenever they try setting boundaries with you. Boundaries are healthy, boundaries are necessary, and boundaries keep relationships intact. Most people don't know what their boundaries are until they've been crossed. A boundary is simply a dividing line. A boundary is very similar to a fence. Boundaries help you to define and or decide what makes you comfortable, what's acceptable from other people, what makes you uncomfortable, and how you would like other people to treat you and interact with you. Most people have no idea what their boundaries are until they've been crossed. Let's talk about the different types of boundaries. Material boundaries. That could simply mean lending money. What are your boundaries regarding that? If you lend someone money and they say they're going to pay you back by a certain date and they don't, is there a boundary that you won't let them lend money again? Or does it need to happen 2 or 3 times? Or do you take it on a case-by-case basis and it depends on the circumstances? Another example of a material boundary is your time. Your time is valuable. Do people get in the habit of wasting your time, and you need to set some boundaries? Favors, labor, and services are also examples of material boundaries. Are you always being summoned to engage in some type of event, activity, or something that requires your time, your labor, your experience and or expertise without compensation for your time or your service or your expertise? Now, if anyone knows me, you know that I am someone who volunteers my time quite frequently to help other people, to make sure other people succeed and their events go over well. But I do it to the extent that I'm comfortable, not to the extent that other people want me to, because that wouldn't be healthy for me. And if I am engaging in someone else's activity or project and I'm not happy about it, that's not good for them either. So set the boundaries. Say no. What are your boundaries? Who can touch you? Who can cross the line that you've drawn regarding your personal space? How can they cross that line? And when? Let me give you a good example. You might be a hugger, but you have boundaries with huggers. Maybe you're married and you don't engage in hugs from the opposite sex unless it is someone that's really close to you, or a family member, or someone that you and your husband or wife, or someone that you and your spouse are both comfortable with. Your mental boundaries. You have the right to your thoughts, your feelings, and your beliefs, and also your opinions. Very often people try to persuade other people to think and feel and believe what they think, feel, and believe. And you have to set boundaries with those types of people. We saw a lot of that going on with the politics and the election and all that stuff that was going on in the recent past. People were getting upset with other people for having a difference of opinion, and they would try to persuade other people to think or believe what they think or believe. And in most cases, that simply isn't right. You have the right to think and feel and believe what you think, feel, and believe. Because sometimes with that mental persuasion comes intimidation, and that's when it really starts to feel uncomfortable. So set boundaries if you find that people are trying to persuade and intimidate you based on their thoughts and feelings and beliefs and or their opinions. Hey guys, boundaries keep the unhealthy and toxic dysfunctional parts of relationships away and keeps the healthy components of your relationships and interactions with other people intact. When there's healthy boundaries, people are less likely to want to leave the relationship. A major part of having healthy boundaries is being able to say no to other people and being able to accept other people's no without taking it personal or being afraid that they will somehow disown you, not love you, not accept you, not like you, not respect you. Another major component of setting boundaries entails being able to separate your feelings from the feelings of other people. Your feelings should not be dependent upon other people's feelings or thoughts or behaviors even. A lot of people have a difficult time with emotional boundaries because they don't realize that they are in charge of their feelings. We all are. Remember, you are in charge of your feelings. Having said that, once again, the way someone else thinks, feels, behaves should not have any bearing on how you feel. Seeing a therapist can help you to identify what thoughts you might be having that are perpetuating the feelings or that emotional response that you're having to another person's thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. So other people should not make you mad, sad, angry, or whatever. You set emotional boundaries for you so that you remain in control of your own feelings. Our feelings are choices for the most part. And because our feelings are choices, this means you do not carry the weight of other people's choices. When you allow other people's feelings, their thoughts, their opinions, or their behaviors dictate your feelings, you leave yourself vulnerable to manipulation from those people. We see this a lot in abusive relationships. In those types of relationships, very often, you see the perpetrator of abuse become the victim very rapidly. It's really important that you define your boundaries, and you simply do that by learning what offends you, what upsets you, what makes you afraid, what makes you uncomfortable, what's unacceptable from other people. Not having boundaries simply allows other people to determine how you feel. How do you know if you have poor boundaries? I'll give you a few good examples. Are you that person that everyone tends to pile extra work upon at work? You know why they do that? More than likely because you have poor boundaries. Maybe you haven't been assertive in communicating to them that your job responsibilities are yours and theirs are theirs. And if you have extra time and you desire to help out, you will certainly do that. But you decide when you do extra or when you do someone else's work. Of course, many companies have a teamwork approach, and that's great. That's how it should be. But there are times and circumstances in which a person basically gets abused by their coworkers due to poor boundaries. Do you find yourself cringing each time someone tries to touch you? You feel uncomfortable internally, but externally you say nothing. You just kind of freeze because you don't like certain people touching you, or you don't like people touching you in certain situations or environments and so forth. That says that you have poor boundaries. You have the right to say who can touch you, how they can touch you, and when. Are you that person whose exes are always coming back? That ex-boyfriend or that ex-girlfriend or ex-wife or ex-husband tends to come knocking on the door, texting you, or calling you? Typically, it's because you have poor boundaries or none at all. They know they can come back. You've probably accepted them back multiple times, and they know when they have time or they're bored or whatever that they can reach out to you, and there you will be, vulnerable and ready to be manipulated. Are you that person that is habitually cheated on in relationships? Typically, it's due to poor boundaries or lack of assertiveness with your boundaries. because you teach people how to treat you. And if that fence has not been set up, then more than likely that line is going to be crossed again and again and again, because they know they're not going to lose anything. Once again, that is something you can talk about in therapy with your therapist. How to deal with that, how to confront that, how to set those boundaries, and how to demonstrate self-love in the event that you are someone who has been habitually cheated on or abused in some manner. Healthy boundaries comes from having a healthy sense of self, meaning you value yourself. You value yourself in a way that does not depend on the way other people think or feel about you. As we wrap this up, I want to give you 4 tips in setting boundaries. I've already explained what boundaries are, why boundaries are important and how they help, what happens when you have poor boundaries, and how to determine if you might be someone that lacks boundaries or has poor boundaries. Now I want to give you just a few tips on how to communicate your boundaries effectively to the people in your life. The first is be firm. And this simply means be direct. This can be very difficult for some people. I have worked with a lot of people over the years in therapy that have a very difficult time being assertive with other people, and they see it as being unkind. It's not being unkind at all. It's demonstrating self-respect for yourself and honesty to the other person. When you're not firm or assertive when setting boundaries, you basically leave the line gray, and it's questionable as to whether or not that's a true boundary and whether it can be crossed. You want that line to be bold, not gray. Next, be consistent. Once you set your boundaries and you've done it in an assertive and firm and direct manner, you have to be consistent. And what I mean by that is, don't stand by your boundaries in a firm manner one day, and then the next day you allow that person or those people to cross the boundaries. So for example, if this week you tell your coworkers not to pile their work up on you because it's their responsibility and not yours, but then next week you allow them to do it and you don't say anything about it, then you're not setting healthy, firm boundaries. When you habitually take X's back, you're basically saying, it's not really a boundary. I said don't cheat on me, or I left you, or I said I was done with this relationship. But if you happen to come back at the right time, I might take you back. Be firm, be consistent. Next, you have to know where the line is. Like I said earlier, a lot of people have no idea what their boundaries are until they've been crossed. And as you learn what these boundaries are, journal about them. Write them down in your journal so that you remember. You guys know I am a firm believer in journaling. And journaling is a way for you to help yourself remember things, to get to know yourself, to explore different ideas and perspectives, to set goals, and overall for growth and to improve your quality of life. And then the next thing and the last thing I want to say today is distance. Once you have set boundaries, you've been firm, you've been consistent, you are very clear about where that line is, and a person or people refuse to respect those boundaries or value you, your time, your feelings, your emotions, it is okay for you to cut off communication and create some distance. I talked about that this week. Distance is okay if it means you are protecting your mental health and your emotional well-being. No one has the right to take away your self-defined space. You set your boundaries. You are responsible for how you feel. You don't carry the weight of how someone else feels because you have set boundaries with them. Very often, when you set boundaries with people who have poor boundaries or none at all, they say things that could easily make someone with poor boundaries or that's vulnerable feel guilty. Boundaries mean you love yourself, you respect yourself, you value yourself. Healthy boundaries improve one's quality of life and promotes happiness. If you need some help in this area and you'd like to schedule an appointment for counseling, please call my office at 618-717-2732, or you can visit carmelbrowncounseling.com. Hey guys, that's all I have today. See you soon.